New employee health and safety orientation. Objectives. After this orientation, you will possess understanding of our company's safety commitment, understanding of your responsibilities and hours, knowledge of workplace hazards, understanding of accident reporting procedures, knowledge of emergency procedures, understanding of trade health and safety committees and safety representative, knowledge of personal protective equipment, PPE, and training requirements. Why health and safety? It's our legal requirement. Every worker, supervisor, and owner have responsibilities as outlined in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, the Green Book. We have a moral obligation to make sure that you will return home to your family at the end of the day. Is committed to providing a healthy and safe working environment for our employees, our subcontractors, and preventing occupational illness and injury. Responsibilities. Responsibilities start at the top and filter down. The owner shall provide planning and active support, approve budget, hold site supervisors accountable for health and safety on their work sites, provide supervisors with support and resources, assist a health and safety manager and safety representative. Responsibilities for supervisors. The site supervisor shall provide a safe and healthy working environment, establish and maintain the health and safety program, ensure workers are trained properly, supervise workers to ensure safe working procedures are being followed, conduct weekly site safety inspections, conduct weekly site safety meetings, report hazards and incidents to the proper authorities. The site supervisor shall provide appropriate first aid services, ensure proper PPE, personal protective equipment, is available and being used properly, communicate hazards and control methods to the workers, cooperate with safety representative or trade committee, hold workers accountable. Responsibilities of workers. Report all incidents and injuries regardless of how minor you think they are, fill out first aid log, comply with company code of conduct and procedures, use equipment and machinery only if trained or authorized, report all hazards immediately, follow job procedures as instructed, where proper PPE is required. Trade safety meetings. Mandatory attendance is required by one worker from each trade every month. Review all accidents and incidents. Raise concern with regard to worker safety. Discuss possible solutions to any outstanding issues. Anyone with a safety concern can attend the meeting. Meeting minutes will be posted in the site office. Workers' rights. Right to know what materials and hazards you will be exposed to on this job or work site. Right to participate in the selection of a worker safety representative or as a member of the Trade Health and Safety Committee. Right to refuse unsafe working conditions or procedures. Right to stop work, exercised only by a JHSC certified member. Hazards in construction. Propane. Welding and cutting. Manual lifting and handling. Slips, trips, and falls. Pedestrian and vehicle traffic. Heavy equipment. Excavations. Working at heights, just to name a few. Daily hazard analysis. All sub-trade foremen must complete a daily hazard assessment with their workers prior to the start of each shift. Hazard assessments must be submitted to the target site superintendent prior to the commencement of work. Personal protective equipment. Personal protective equipment is to be worn at all times on site. Steel-toe boots, high-vis vests, and hard hats are mandatory. Hearing protection, gloves, safety glasses, and harness as required. Elevated work platform. When operating an elevated work platform you must have a valid operator's ticket. Working at heights training. Wear a CSA-approved harness and lanyard. Latch the safety chain. Be tied off 100% of the time to an engineered anchor point. Inspect lift on a daily basis. Step ladders. When working on a step ladder, do not work off the top step. This can result in serious injury or death. Anyone caught working from the top step will be removed from site. Steel workers. Ensure all equipment is inspected daily prior to use. Tie-off 100% of the time is required and mandatory. Failing to comply will result in immediate removal from site. Guardrails. Anyone caught removing a guardrail or working near the edge, without being tied off, will be removed from the site immediately. Any guardrail that needs to be removed must be authorized by site superintendent and safety protocols put in place. Lockout and tagout. Lockout procedures must be followed on site from any energized means or source. Energized means. Connected to energy source. Contains residual or stored energy. Energy source. Electrical, mechanical, hydraulic, pneumatic, chemical, thermal. Never remove a lockout tag. Always contact the tag's owner if you require the power turned on. Site services, digging and excavating. Any contractors doing any excavating on site must confirm you are aware of all services that may be buried. Do not excavate until you have the proper information. Up-to-date locates are required and are mandatory. Emergency procedures. When you hear the air horn blast, every worker is required to leave the site immediately and proceed to the designated meeting location, muster point. The supervisors and safety representative will ensure that the appropriate authorities have been contacted and ensure that first aid treatment is given. Each subcontractor foreman will account for all their employees. Cooperation with this procedure is mandatory for all. Accident reporting. Report all incidents and work-related illnesses to site supervisor immediately, no matter how minor. Each site has at least one certified first aid provider. Any accident scene is to be secured to maintain integrity for investigation purposes. Do not move anything. Critical incidents have to be reported to the Department of Labor. Critical incidents. A reportable serious incident is defined as one in which a worker is killed or in which a worker suffers an injury resulting from electrical contact, unconsciousness as the result of a concussion, a fracture of his or her skull, spine, pelvis, arm, leg, hand, or foot, amputation of an arm, leg, hand, foot, finger, or toe. Third-degree burns. Permanent or temporary loss of sight. A cut or laceration that requires medical treatment at a hospital. Asphyxiation or poisoning. Training. Every worker will have received the following training. New Employee Orientation. MOL, Safety Awareness for Workers. WMIS 2015. MOL, Working at Heights Training. Elevated Work Platform Training when working on any lift. At least one worker on each site will have first aid and CPR training. Confined spaces, as required. Propane, as required. Review. After this session, you should now be familiar with our commitment to your health and safety on the job. Your responsibilities. Your supervisor's responsibilities. Your rights as a worker. The workplace hazards. What PPE, personal protective equipment, is required. Training requirements. Next step. Complete the orientation checklist and return it to the site superintendent. Tour the workplace with your foreman to identify potential hazards and make sure you understand how you will prevent injury if hazards are discovered. Ensure your foreman has provided you with a job hazard analysis prior to the start of work. Foreman. Make sure job hazard analysis is handed into site supervisor prior to starting work. This is mandatory. This orientation has now concluded. Work safe.